The sun had just begun to rise over the valley, casting long golden shadows across the uneven ground. A young boy walked carefully, his bare feet crunching softly on the dry leaves and small rocks beneath him. He had left his small village early that morning, carrying a tiny bundle of bread and a water flask, hoping to find something useful for his family. He loved exploring the quiet corners of the land, where the forest met the hills, and where no one from the village dared to go. There was always something mysterious about those places. As he moved deeper into the valley, he noticed strange tracks on the damp soil. They were enormous, unlike anything he had seen before. The impressions of claws dug deep into the earth, and the marks stretched far across the clearing. The boy stopped and knelt down, tracing the edge of one track with his fingers. The claws were long, curved, and sharp, and he felt a chill run down his spine. He had heard stories in the village tales of a terrifying creature that once lived in these valleys. Everyone called it a dragon, though most believed it was a myth. According to the stories, it was the deadliest of all creatures, fierce and impossible to defeat. The boy's heart pounded, but he felt an unexplainable pull to follow the tracks. His curiosity was stronger than his fear. Slowly, he walked forward, moving carefully through the thick brush. The valley was quiet, except for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. The boy felt as if the forest itself was holding its breath. He kept his eyes on the tracks, noticing that they seemed fresher than he expected. Whoever or whatever had made them had passed not long ago. Finally, after walking for a long time, he reached a small clearing. What he saw made him freeze. There, in the center of the clearing, lay a massive creature. It was a dragon, but not the kind of dragon the stories had warned him about. This one looked weak, almost broken. Its scales, which he imagined must have once shone like polished metal, were dull and cracked. Its wings, huge and powerful in shape, drooped lifelessly at its sides. The dragon's chest rose and fell slowly with each shallow breath, and its enormous head rested on the ground as if it could barely lift it. For a long moment, the boy could only stare. The dragon's eyes, once surely fierce and burning, now looked hollow and tired. There was hunger and suffering in them, a silent plea that spoke louder than any roar ever could. The boy felt his fear melt into something else, something softer. He had never seen pain like this in any living being, and it struck him deeply. He remembered the small piece of bread he had saved for himself that morning. Without thinking, he opened his bundle. The dragon shifted slightly, its massive head turning toward the boy. Its movements were slow and uncertain. The boy stepped forward cautiously, holding the bread out with both hands. The dragon's nostrils flared as it sniffed the air, and it let out a weak, rasping sound. It was almost like a growl, but not threatening, more desperate, like the sound of someone begging. The boy froze for a second, then whispered to himself, "It's hungry. It needs help." Carefully, he placed the bread on the ground in front of the dragon. The creature's eyes never left him. At first, it hesitated, lowering its massive snout to the bread and then pulling back. Its breathing was labored, and its body shook slightly. The boy stayed still, making no sudden movements. He understood that the dragon was both terrified and starving, unsure if he was a threat or a friend. After what felt like an eternity, the dragon finally took a cautious bite. The sound of the bread crunching seemed louder than anything else in the valley. The dragon ate slowly at first, then faster, as if it had forgotten how to be gentle. The boy watched in awe. He had never seen anything so large and so terrifying eat in such a small, careful way. There was something almost human in the dragon's hunger, something that reminded him of his own family when they were starving or tired. Once the dragon had eaten most of the bread. It lifted its head slightly and looked at the boy. Its eyes were softer now, and there was a strange, almost childlike understanding in them. It did not attack. It did not roar. It simply waited, silently, as if asking for more, yet too proud to demand it. The boy's heart ached. He had always imagined dragons as monsters to fear, but here, in front of him, was a creature that was suffering, alone, and misunderstood. The boy took a deep breath. He remembered the small pouch of food his mother had packed for him that morning. It was not much, just some dried berries, a piece of cheese, and a little more bread. He took out a few more crumbs and placed them near the dragon. The creature sniffed them, this time moving closer without hesitation. It ate the food quietly, and the boy felt a strange connection forming. For the first time in his life, he realized that compassion could exist even between the most unlikely beings. Time passed slowly in the clearing. The boy and the dragon did not speak. They could not, but they understood each other. The boy could feel the dragon's pain, its exhaustion, and its fear, and the dragon seemed to sense the boy's kindness and care. The valley, which had once seemed silent and empty, now felt alive. Every leaf, every gust of wind, every distant bird seemed to bear witness to the quiet bond forming between human and dragon dot as the sun climbed higher. Warming the earth, the dragon shifted again. Its wings twitched slightly, and it lifted its head higher this time. The boy noticed that its breathing, though still heavy, was steadier than before. The dragon looked at him, and for the first time, the boy saw a flicker of hope in its eyes. It was a small spark, but it was there. The dragon was beginning to trust him, and in that moment, the boy realized that he had made a choice. He could turn and run, leaving the creature to its suffering, or he could stay and help it, even if it meant facing fear, danger, or uncertainty. Without hesitation, he decided to stay. He moved a little closer, speaking softly in a voice meant to soothe, not command. "It's okay," he said. "You're safe here. I'll help you." The dragon's head tilted slightly, as if it understood the words. It let out a soft rumble, not a roar, a sound that seemed almost like a sigh of relief. The boy smiled, feeling a warmth spread through him, a feeling that he could never have imagined when he first set out that morning. For the rest of the day, he stayed with the dragon, offering small pieces of food, brushing away dust and leaves, and simply keeping it company. He noticed every detail, the way its scales glimmered faintly under the sunlight, the slight twitch of its claws, the slow, steady rhythm of its eyes blinking. Every small sign of life was a victory. He also noticed the immense loneliness in the dragon, and he felt a responsibility forming inside him, a duty to care for this creature that the world had feared and abandoned as the sun began to set, painting the sky with streaks of orange and pink. The boy realized that he could not leave the valley yet. He gathered what little food he had left and promised the dragon that he would return the next day. The dragon lay down, its massive body resting on the ground, but it did not close its eyes. Its gaze followed the boy until he disappeared among the trees. In that gaze, the boy saw something he had never expected: gratitude. It was subtle, almost invisible, but it was there, shining quietly like a hidden star. The boy walked home slowly, thinking about what he had seen. He wondered how such a powerful creature could be brought to such a weak and helpless state. He wondered what stories the villagers would tell, if they knew. Most of all, he wondered what the dragon would do tomorrow when he returned. He felt excitement, fear, and anticipation all at once. Something extraordinary had begun, and he could feel it in his bones. His life and the life of the valley would never be the same again that night. As he lay on his small mat in the corner of his home, he could not stop thinking about the dragon. Its eyes haunted him, not with fear, but with a silent plea for hope. He fell asleep dreaming of scales glinting in sunlight, of wings spreading wide, and of a strange, unspoken friendship that had just begun. He did not know the challenges that lay ahead, nor the dangers that would come with helping such a creature. But he knew one thing for certain. He could never ignore the dragon. Not now, not ever. The next morning, the boy woke early, the memory of the dragon still fresh in his mind. He could almost feel the creature's gaze on him, heavy with trust and need. He quickly ate a small piece of bread, drank a little water, and packed a few scraps of food for the journey. Today, he decided, he would spend the entire day with the dragon. The thought of leaving it alone in the valley made his stomach twist. The valley was quiet as he walked back. The early morning fog clung to the trees, giving the place a strange, magical look. The boy moved carefully, stepping over roots and rocks, following the path he had taken the day before. The tracks were still there, pressed into the soil like reminders of the dragon's passage. He felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. He knew the dragon was dangerous, at least by reputation, but the fear he had felt yesterday was slowly being replaced by curiosity and compassion. When he reached the clearing, the dragon was already awake. It lifted its head weakly, and the boy noticed how thin and fragile it looked. Its wings were folded awkwardly, and its tail dragged on the ground. The dragon's eyes met the boy's, and for a moment, there was silence. No words were needed. Both understood that the other had returned, and both felt relief. The boy placed the food on the ground again, and this time the dragon did not hesitate. It ate quickly, greedily, but carefully. As if afraid that the food might disappear as the dragon ate, the boy examined it more closely. He could see the scars and scratches along its legs and chest, evidence of past battles and struggles. Its scales, though still dull, had a slight shine in the sunlight, hinting at the strength that lay beneath the weakness. The boy wondered how such a powerful creature could be brought to this state of hunger and fragility. He had heard stories from villagers about dragons attacking villages, destroying fields, and taking livestock. But this dragon, lying before him, seemed nothing like those stories. It was not fierce or violent. It was tired, hungry, and lonely. After the dragon finished eating, it lay down again, its massive head resting on the ground. The boy slowly approached and reached out a hand, placing it gently on the dragon's snout. The dragon flinched at first, then relaxed. It was a small gesture, but it filled the boy with hope. He realized that trust was forming between them, fragile but real. He whispered softly, "I won't hurt you. You're safe." The dragon blinked slowly, almost as if it understood the words, and nudged his hand with its nose. The boy decided to explore the surrounding area with the dragon. He had no intention of leaving it alone, and he wanted to understand more about its home. He led the way slowly, pointing out plants and streams, speaking to the dragon as if it could understand him. The dragon followed, its movements slow at first, but gradually gaining strength. The boy noticed that its steps were more confident, its breathing steadier. Each small improvement gave him a sense of accomplishment and pride. Along the way, the boy found small fruits and edible roots. He picked them carefully and offered them to the dragon. The creature ate them eagerly, and the boy laughed quietly, amazed at the transformation he was witnessing. He realized that care and attention could do what fear and violence never could. The dragon, once a symbol of terror, was now learning to rely on someone's kindness. The boy felt a strange connection, as if the dragon could sense his feelings and respond in its own way. As they moved deeper into the valley, the boy noticed signs of other animals. Small tracks of rabbits and deer crisscrossed the ground, and he pointed them out to the dragon. He was curious to see if the dragon would react aggressively, but it did not. Instead, it observed the smaller creatures with a quiet, cautious curiosity. The boy realized that the dragon's instincts were still sharp. It was not weak in spirit, only in body. Once it regained its strength, he thought, it would be an unstoppable force. Yet even now, it seemed content to follow him and accept his guidance. By midday, the boy and the dragon reached a small stream. The water was clear and cool, and the boy knelt to drink. He scooped some water into his hands and offered it to the dragon. The creature hesitated, then drank carefully, lapping up the water with surprising delicacy for its size. The boy watched closely, relieved that it was not aggressive. He filled his flask with water, thinking ahead to the days when he might need more food and water to help the dragon regain its strength. As the sun climbed higher, the boy began to notice the dragon's subtle reactions. Its ears twitched at the sound of birds, its tail moved slightly when insects brushed against it, and its eyes followed the boy's every movement. The creature was alive, aware, and intelligent. The boy felt a mixture of awe and responsibility. He understood that he was no longer just a visitor in the valley. He had become a caretaker, a friend, and perhaps the only being that could help this dragon survive. The boy also noticed that the valley itself seemed to respond to their presence. Animals that had hidden from the dragon before now watched from a distance. Birds flew above them, chirping, and the wind rustled the leaves in a soothing rhythm. The boy felt as if the valley itself was acknowledging their bond, recognizing the unusual friendship forming between human and dragon. It was a quiet, magical moment that made the boy's heart swell. As the day went on, the boy taught himself how to communicate with the dragon in small ways. He clapped softly to get its attention, used hand gestures to guide it, and even hummed quietly to calm it when it became restless. The dragon responded slowly, tilting its head, moving closer, or nudging his hand. Each small success filled the boy with pride and hope. He realized that fear could be replaced with understanding, and that even the most powerful and deadly creatures could learn trust when treated with care. By late afternoon, the boy knew it was time to head back home. He did not want to leave the dragon alone for too long, but he also knew he had responsibilities to his family. He gathered what little food remained, filled his flask with water, and prepared to return. The dragon watched him silently, its massive eyes following his every move. When he turned to leave, it let out a low, soft rumble. The boy paused, understanding the sound not as a threat, but as a form of communication. The dragon was acknowledging him, expressing its connection, and perhaps asking him to return soon. On the way back, the boy thought about the stories he had heard in the village. People had always feared the dragon, believing it to be a creature of destruction and terror. But he knew the truth now. The dragon was not evil. It had been misunderstood, left alone, and weakened. With patience and care, the boy believed it could become a friend, a protector, and a companion. The idea excited him. He felt that he was part of something extraordinary, something that would change the way humans and dragons were seen in the world. That evening, the boy returned to his small home, tired but full of a new sense of purpose. He shared a simple meal with his family, but his mind was on the valley, on the dragon, and on the adventures that lay ahead. He could not stop thinking about the creature's eyes, the way it had looked at him with silent understanding and need. He knew he had begun something that would not be easy, but he also knew that he could not abandon it. As he lay down to sleep, the boy imagined the dragon resting in the clearing, slowly regaining its strength, and perhaps dreaming of freedom, warmth, and companionship. He smiled, feeling a strange joy that came from knowing he was making a difference. He did not yet know the challenges that awaited him, villagers who might not understand, dangers in the wild, or the dragon's own instincts, but he felt ready. For the first time, he realized that courage was not just about facing danger. It was also about showing compassion, patience, and love. That night, the boy dreamed of the dragon's wings spreading wide, of soaring through the sky, and of the bond they had begun to form. It was a quiet, powerful dream, full of hope, trust, and the promise of something extraordinary. When he woke the next morning, he knew he would return to the valley, ready to continue his journey with the creature that had already changed his life. The boy returned to the valley every day, carrying small pieces of bread, fruits, and whatever he could find for the dragon. With each visit, the creature grew a little stronger. Its once dull scales began to shine faintly under the sunlight, and its wings, though still fragile, started to twitch with more energy. The boy noticed small changes that filled him with hope. The dragon no longer flinched at sudden movements, and it seemed to recognize him instantly, raising its massive head as he approached. One morning, as he walked through the misty valley, he heard distant voices. He paused, hiding behind a thick tree. A group of villagers had come, armed with sticks and makeshift tools. They were talking in hushed, urgent tones, warning each other about the dragon. "It's the deadliest creature in the valley," one of them said. "We cannot let it live. It will come for us or our animals, sooner or later." The boy's heart sank. He knew that if they found the dragon, it could be in real danger. He watched as they moved closer to the clearing, carefully scanning the area. He realized that hiding alone would not be enough. He needed a plan to protect the creature, not just feed it. The boy decided to act carefully, knowing he could not let panic or fear dictate the outcome. When he finally reached the dragon, he noticed it was already aware of the strangers. Its ears twitched, and it lifted its head, letting out a low, rumbling sound. It was not aggressive, but it was alert. The boy crouched beside it, speaking softly. "It's okay," he whispered. "Don't be afraid. I'm here." The dragon's eyes met his, and the boy felt the silent connection they had built. It trusted him, and he needed to trust it now. The boy knew he had to distract the villagers. He grabbed a small branch and waved it from a distance, making noise to lure them away from the dragon. The villagers paused, confused, and the boy ran toward a small ridge nearby, waving his arms and shouting to catch their attention. The dragon watched silently, waiting for the boy's signal. Once the villagers were distracted, the boy motioned for the dragon to follow him deeper into the valley, into a narrow path surrounded by trees and rocks where it could hide safely. As they moved together, the boy could feel the dragon's heavy, cautious steps behind him. Its breathing was slow but steady, and he noticed the slight rhythm of its tail brushing against the ground. They reached a hidden alcove, a small clearing covered by thick foliage. The dragon lowered itself, curling around in a protective stance. It was clear that it understood the danger had passed, and it trusted the boy's judgment. The boy sat beside it, offering more food. "You're safe here," he said softly. The dragon took the food carefully, as if savoring the taste more than ever. The boy noticed how fragile it still looked. Its body was strong in size, but weak in condition. Every step they took together reminded him of the responsibility he had taken on. This was not just feeding an animal. It was nurturing a life, and he could not fail. Over the next few days, the boy experimented with ways to care for the dragon without drawing attention from the villagers. He started bringing food in small, hidden pouches and leaving them in the alcove. The dragon would come quietly at dawn, eat, and retreat back into the trees. The boy would watch from a distance, ensuring no one from the village stumbled upon them. Slowly, he realized that he was learning as much as the dragon. Patience, strategy, and observation became his daily lessons, and he discovered a sense of pride in what they were achieving together. One afternoon, while the boy was observing the dragon from behind a cluster of rocks, he noticed a small bird perched near the dragon. Instead of attacking, the dragon simply watched it. The boy marveled at this. He had always imagined dragons as violent creatures, but this one was cautious, even gentle. Its instincts were not gone. They were just tempered by weakness, and perhaps the trust it had started to place in him. The boy understood that they were building something rare, a bond that went beyond fear or survival. As the dragon regained strength, the boy noticed subtle changes in its behavior. It began to lift its head higher, stretching its wings slowly, and even practicing small steps and turns in the clearing. These were small signs, but to the boy, they were extraordinary. He realized that the dragon's body was healing, and its spirit was awakening. He felt an intense mixture of pride, hope, and a sense of wonder. Every day, it amazed him how a creature so terrifying by legend could show so much vulnerability and intelligence. However, the boy knew that the path ahead was not simple. The villagers' warnings and fear were real. Some of them would never understand the bond he was forming with the dragon. They would see only the danger, not the suffering, the need, or the growing trust. He began thinking about how to change their perception, how to show them that the dragon was not a threat. But he also realized that such understanding would take time. For now, their safety depended on secrecy and caution. One evening, the boy decided to spend more time teaching the dragon simple gestures and signals. He clapped softly to gain its attention, waved his hand to indicate direction, and even spoke gentle words, though he knew the dragon could not understand the language. Yet the creature responded. It tilted its head, followed his movements, and sometimes even nudged him in return. Each small reaction filled the boy with hope. He began to understand that intelligence and trust were stronger than fear, and that even the most feared creatures could learn kindness if treated with patience. As the sun began to set, the boy sat beside the dragon and watched the shadows grow long over the valley. The air was cool, and the quiet was broken only by the soft rustling of leaves and distant calls of birds returning to their nests. He noticed the dragon's breathing had slowed, steady and calm. Its eyes, now soft and alert, followed him whenever he moved. The boy smiled quietly. This was more than survival. This was connection, a bond formed in silence and shared care. Suddenly, a distant shout reached them. The boy's heart leapt. He recognized the voices of villagers. They had come again, and this time they were moving closer, perhaps hoping to catch the dragon off guard. He turned to the creature, placing his hand gently on its snout. "Stay calm," he whispered. "Trust me." The dragon blinked slowly and lowered its body, making itself smaller and less visible among the rocks and trees. The boy led the dragon quietly along a hidden path, deeper into the forested area of the valley. The villagers' shouts grew fainter as the boy guided the dragon away. He noticed the dragon's muscles were stronger now, its steps more certain, and its body reacting faster to his guidance. He felt a surge of pride and relief. Together, they had avoided danger without violence, using trust and strategy instead. It amazed him how much they could accomplish together, and he began to believe that the dragon's future might not be as doomed as he had feared. By nightfall, the boy and the dragon returned to the alcove where they had hidden earlier. He placed the remaining food in front of it, and the dragon ate slowly, carefully, savoring each bite. The boy watched, thinking about the challenges that lay ahead. He knew there would be more villagers, more dangers, and more obstacles. But he also knew that the bond they had formed was strong enough to face them. As he lay down near the dragon that night, the boy felt a deep sense of responsibility. He was not just protecting a creature. He was nurturing a life, teaching trust, and creating a connection that could change everything. The dragon rested beside him, its head low but alert, its body slowly regaining strength. The boy could feel its presence, heavy and warm, and he knew that tomorrow would bring more lessons, more growth, and perhaps more wonder. He thought about the stories the villagers had told him. Dragons were dangerous, deadly, unstoppable. Yet here was one, alive and intelligent, learning to trust, learning to survive. He realized that the stories had been only half the truth. Fear had shaped the legends, while compassion had the power to rewrite them. The boy felt a quiet determination. He would continue to care for the dragon, protect it, and guide it. He would show the world that kindness could triumph over fear, and that even the deadliest creatures could become friends. As he drifted to sleep, the boy imagined the dragon fully healed, moving freely, wings strong and eyes bright. He dreamed of the adventures they could share, the skies they could soar, and the bond they would nurture. It was not just a dream of power or magic. It was a dream of trust, understanding, and friendship. He knew that the journey ahead would not be easy, but he felt ready. Together, they were building something extraordinary, a story that no one in the valley could ever forget. Days passed, and the boy's visits to the valley became part of his daily life. Each morning, he woke before the sun, eager to see the dragon and check on its condition. The creature had grown stronger, its body gaining weight, its scales regaining a faint shimmer, and its wings beginning to flex with purpose. What had once been a slow, painful movement was now more fluid, almost graceful. The boy felt pride and relief each time he saw these improvements. One morning, the boy noticed something unusual. The dragon, which had always been cautious and reserved, moved toward him without hesitation. It lowered its massive head as he approached and nudged his hand with its snout. The boy smiled softly, feeling a warmth he had not felt before. "You're stronger today," he whispered. "We're getting there, step by step." The dragon blinked slowly, its eyes bright, as if acknowledging his words in its own way. The boy decided it was time to explore further. He wanted to help the dragon regain its confidence in movement and practice its strength. He led the way through narrow paths and hidden clearings, speaking softly to the dragon, guiding it as it carefully lifted its wings and stretched its legs. With each step, the creature's movements became smoother, its breathing steadier. The boy marveled at the change. The dragon that had once barely lifted its head was now capable of slow, deliberate steps and even small jumps over rocks and fallen trees. However, not everything was simple. The villagers continued to talk about the dragon, their fear growing with each story they heard. Some had spotted tracks and claimed they had seen shadows of a massive creature moving through the valley. Whispers spread of a dangerous beast that might strike at any moment. The boy knew he had to remain cautious. One wrong move could put the dragon in danger, and he could not let that happen. He planned his visits carefully, choosing early mornings and late afternoons when the villagers were less likely to be around. One afternoon, while the boy was resting near the dragon, he heard sudden cries. A group of villagers had entered the valley, shouting warnings and carrying torches. The boy froze, knowing they had come closer than ever before. The dragon's ears twitched, and it lowered its head instinctively. The boy placed his hand on its snout, whispering, "Stay calm. Trust me." The dragon obeyed, curling its massive body close to the ground. Together, they waited quietly, blending into the shadows of the trees and rocks. The villagers searched for hours, but they could not find the dragon. They assumed it had fled or hidden somewhere far away. Once they left, the boy breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at the dragon, which lifted its head and blinked slowly. It seemed almost grateful, as if it understood the danger they had just avoided. The boy realized that he had to teach the dragon not only strength, but also patience, caution, and trust. This was more than just recovery. It was preparation for the challenges ahead. As the days turned into weeks, the boy focused on helping the dragon regain its full strength. He taught it to lift its wings, stretch them fully, and flap gently. At first, the dragon struggled, its muscles weak and uncoordinated. But the boy encouraged it with gentle words and hand gestures. Slowly, the dragon began to respond, flapping its wings a little higher each day, testing its limits. The boy felt amazement mixed with pride. This was a creature that could once terrify entire villages, and now it was learning to move and grow under his guidance. The dragon also began to show signs of intelligence and curiosity. It would follow the boy through hidden paths, watching how he moved, observing his actions carefully. Sometimes it would mimic him, placing its massive claws in patterns similar to his hand gestures, or tilting its head when he tilted his own. The boy laughed quietly at these moments, amazed by how clever the creature was. He realized that trust and guidance could awaken intelligence, even in the most feared beings. Food remained important, but it was no longer a struggle to feed the dragon. The boy found small streams, patches of berries, and edible roots throughout the valley. He brought these to the dragon and watched as it ate carefully, savoring the food rather than devouring it in desperation. The boy noticed that the creature's eyes were brighter, its breathing steadier, and its body more relaxed. Each day brought small victories, and each victory brought hope but challenges persisted. One day, as the boy and dragon explored a new clearing, they stumbled upon tracks of larger animals' wolves or wild cats that might see the dragon as a threat or competition. The dragon froze, muscles tense, eyes scanning the area. The boy held up a hand, signaling it to stay calm. Slowly, he approached the edge of the clearing and observed the tracks. The predators were nearby, but had not yet noticed them. The boy realized that he had to teach the dragon awareness, caution, and strategy. This was not just about feeding or strengthening. It was about survival. He spent the next few days showing the dragon how to respond to sounds, movements, and smells. The dragon began to lift its head when it heard distant noises, adjust its stance when it sensed movement, and even move quietly to avoid detection. The boy felt pride in its progress. The dragon was no longer weak and helpless. It was learning to be strong, careful, and aware of its surroundings. This was a transformation more remarkable than the boy had imagined. As the dragon grew stronger, the boy also noticed a change in its personality. It began to seek him out, nuzzling his hand, following him more closely, and showing signs of attachment. The boy realized that the bond between them was deepening, built on trust, care, and mutual respect. The dragon was not only recovering physically, but also emotionally. It had begun to see the boy as a companion, not just a source of food or safety. One evening, the boy sat beside the dragon, watching the sun set over the valley. The sky was painted in shades of orange, pink, and purple. He spoke softly, recounting the events of the day, the challenges they had faced, and the victories they had achieved. The dragon listened, tilting its head, blinking slowly, and nudging his hand gently. The boy realized that even without words, they communicated perfectly. Each gesture, each movement, each glance conveyed meaning. It was a friendship built on understanding and trust, rare and precious in the world. Despite the progress, the boy knew that they could not stay hidden forever. The villagers' fear and curiosity would only grow, and eventually they might try to confront the dragon directly. The boy began thinking about how to prepare for that moment. He could not allow fear to dictate their actions. Instead, he needed to plan carefully, teach the dragon strategies, and perhaps even find a way to show the villagers that the creature was not a threat. These thoughts weighed on him, but he did not feel discouraged. He was determined to protect the dragon and guide it through the challenges ahead. One day, the boy decided to test the dragon's wings. He led it to a small cliff overlooking the valley. The dragon hesitated at the edge, muscles tense, wings folded tightly. The boy spoke softly. "You can do this. I'm here. Trust yourself." Slowly, the dragon lifted one wing, then the other, stretching them fully. The boy encouraged it to flap gently. The creature responded, flapping its wings carefully, almost experimentally. The air lifted it slightly, and the boy's heart leapt with joy. The dragon was learning to fly again, one small flap at a time. The moment was not just physical, it was emotional. The boy realized how far they had come together. From the first day when the dragon begged for bread in weakness and hunger, to now, when it lifted its wings and tested its strength, their bond had grown stronger with each challenge and each victory. The boy felt pride, awe, and a deep sense of purpose. He knew that the journey ahead would be difficult, but he also knew that they were ready to face it together. As night fell, the boy and the dragon rested in the hidden alcove. The dragon's body was tired but healthy, its breathing steady, and its eyes bright and alert. The boy sat beside it, placing a hand on its massive snout. He whispered softly, "We're ready for whatever comes next. Together, we can face anything." The dragon nudged him gently, as if agreeing, and settled down beside him. The valley was quiet, the stars shining above them, and the boy felt a sense of calm and hope. He knew that their challenges were far from over. The villagers' fear, the dangers of the wild, and the dragon's own instincts would continue to test them. But he also knew that the trust, care, and friendship they had built were stronger than any fear or danger. The dragon was no longer weak or helpless. It was a creature of strength, learning, and intelligence. And the boy, too, had grown, learning patience, courage, and compassion beyond anything he had known. As he drifted to sleep beside the dragon, the boy imagined the adventures that lay ahead. He dreamed of flying together over the valley, exploring new lands, and showing the world that kindness and understanding could overcome fear and prejudice. He felt ready, confident, and hopeful. Together, they were no longer just a boy and a dragon. They were partners, friends, and guardians of each other. The valley had changed since the boy first discovered the dragon. Trees cast longer shadows now, streams sparkled in the sunlight, and the air felt alive with the quiet hum of life. The boy walked through the familiar paths, carrying food and water for the dragon, and felt a sense of peace mixed with anticipation. Today, he sensed something different in the air. The dragon had grown stronger, and he felt that it was ready for something more, something that would mark a turning point in their journey together. When he arrived at the hidden alcove, the dragon was already there, resting but alert. Its scales glimmered faintly, and its wings twitched with energy. The boy approached carefully, speaking softly, "Good morning. Are you ready to try something new today?" The dragon lifted its massive head and blinked slowly, its eyes bright with trust and curiosity. There was a sense of anticipation in the way it shifted its weight, almost as if it understood that today would be different. The boy had decided to challenge the dragon gently, helping it regain its full strength and confidence. He led it to a small clearing surrounded by rocks and trees. The ground was uneven, dotted with small hills and depressions, which would help the dragon practice its balance and coordination. He scattered some food along the path to encourage the dragon to move, watchfully observing its reactions. At first, the dragon was cautious. Its movements were deliberate and careful, each step measured. The boy clapped softly to guide it, using gestures and subtle sounds to communicate direction. The dragon followed, its large wings lifting slightly with each step. The boy felt a thrill of pride and relief. This was progress, a sign that the dragon's body was stronger and its spirit more confident. He could feel the quiet bond between them, strengthening with every interaction. As the day went on, the boy encouraged the dragon to flap its wings, first gently, then with more effort. At first, the creature's movements were awkward. Its wings beat unevenly, and it stumbled slightly on the uneven ground. But the boy stayed patient, speaking softly, offering small pieces of food as encouragement. Slowly, the dragon began to flap more steadily. Its massive body lifted slightly off the ground, and the boy felt a surge of joy and amazement. He could see the power that had once been feared in legends now returning, tempered by trust and care. While practicing, the dragon suddenly froze. Its ears twitched, and its head lifted, scanning the distance. The boy followed its gaze and saw a small group of villagers approaching the clearing. They had discovered the dragon's tracks and were moving cautiously, their expressions a mixture of fear and determination. The boy's heart raced. He had to act quickly to prevent them from causing harm. He placed a hand gently on the dragon's snout, whispering, "Stay calm. Trust me." The dragon lowered its body, curling slightly, and watched the villagers silently. The boy waved his arms to divert attention, creating a small distraction. The villagers stopped, confused by the boy's sudden movements, giving him time to guide the dragon to a nearby grove of trees. They moved quietly, skillfully, avoiding open ground. The boy marveled at the creature's intelligence and patience. Even under stress, it had learned to follow his guidance and stay calm. Once they reached the safety of the grove, the dragon rested, its breathing steady but alert. The boy offered it some food and water, speaking softly as it ate. "You're doing amazing," he whispered. "I'm proud of you. You're stronger than anyone could imagine." The dragon blinked slowly, almost as if it understood, and nudged his hand gently. That simple gesture filled the boy with an overwhelming sense of connection. They were partners now, bound not just by survival, but by trust, care, and shared experiences. Over the next few days, the boy focused on teaching the dragon more than just strength. He helped it understand the valley, recognize safe paths, and respond to subtle changes in the environment. The dragon's awareness grew rapidly. It would stop when it sensed danger, watch the movements of smaller animals without attacking, and even use its wings to balance on tricky terrain. Each small success brought a sense of wonder and accomplishment. The boy realized that patience, care, and observation were more powerful than fear or force. One afternoon, the boy decided to test the dragon's ability to navigate higher ground. He led it to a small cliff overlooking the valley. The dragon hesitated, muscles tense, wings folded tightly. The boy knelt beside it, whispering, "You can do this. I'm here with you. Trust yourself." Slowly, the dragon lifted one wing, then the other, stretching them fully. It took a deep breath, then flapped gently, lifting a few inches off the ground. The boy felt a rush of pride and excitement. This was a turning point. The dragon's strength, balance, and confidence were all returning. The dragon repeated the exercise several times, each attempt stronger than the last. By the end of the afternoon, it had managed short glides over the edge of the cliff, its massive wings holding steady in the wind. The boy laughed quietly, amazed at the transformation. The creature that had once begged for bread in desperation was now testing its strength, exploring its world, and showing signs of its legendary power. Yet despite all this, it remained gentle and attentive to the boy's guidance, a testament to the bond they had formed. That evening, as they rested in the grove, the boy reflected on the journey so far. He remembered the first day he had found the dragon, weak and starving, its eyes filled with pain and despair. Now the dragon was strong, alert, and intelligent. Its scales shimmered faintly in the moonlight, its wings twitched with energy, and its eyes were bright and aware. The boy realized that they had both changed. He had grown in patience, courage, and understanding, while the dragon had regained its strength, learned trust, and formed a deep connection with a human. The next morning brought another surprise. The dragon approached the boy more closely than ever before, lowering its massive head to rest near his feet. It nudged him gently with its snout, a silent gesture of gratitude and trust. The boy smiled, feeling warmth spread through him. "I'm glad you trust me," he whispered. "I'm proud of how far we've come." The dragon blinked slowly and let out a low rumble, almost like a sigh of relief. It was the first time the boy had felt such direct communication from the creature. He realized that this moment was more than friendship. It was mutual understanding, respect, and loyalty. Over the following days, the boy introduced more exercises to strengthen the dragon's muscles and coordination. They ran through the valley, navigated tricky paths, and practiced small glides from low cliffs. The dragon's body grew stronger, its wings more powerful, and its movements more fluid. The boy noticed the subtle changes in behavior. The dragon's tail no longer dragged as heavily. Its steps were lighter, and it began exploring the valley with curiosity rather than caution. However, the boy knew that their journey was not just about physical strength. The dragon needed to understand its own power, learn patience, and control its instincts. He spent time teaching it to stop, to wait, and to observe the environment before acting. The dragon responded well, showing signs of intelligence and emotional awareness. It was learning not just how to survive, but how to live with caution, respect, and cooperation that one afternoon. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, the boy and the dragon sat at the edge of a cliff, overlooking the valley below. The boy spoke softly, recounting their journey. The first day he had found the dragon starving, the challenges they had faced, and the victories they had achieved together. The dragon listened, tilting its massive head and blinking slowly. The boy felt a profound sense of connection. They were no longer just a boy and a creature. They were companions, partners, and friends. Suddenly, the dragon lifted its head and stretched its wings fully. The boy felt a rush of excitement. With a strong push of its wings, the dragon lifted off the ground, gliding gracefully over the valley. The boy watched in awe, realizing that the creature had regained its strength, confidence, and independence. Yet, despite its regained power, it remained gentle, attentive, and connected to the boy. This was the culmination of all their efforts, a transformation from weakness and despair to strength, trust, and gratitude. As night fell, the dragon returned to the alcove, resting beside the boy. Its breathing was steady, and its eyes glimmered in the moonlight. The boy reached out, placing a hand on its snout. "We've come so far," he whispered, "and we're just getting started." The dragon nudged him gently in response, a silent affirmation of their bond. In that moment, the boy understood that they had not only survived the challenges of the valley, they had created a friendship that would last a lifetime. The boy woke early that morning with a strange sense of anticipation. The air in the valley was crisp, and sunlight filtered through the trees, casting golden patterns on the ground. Today felt different, almost magical. The dragon, now fully alert and strong, waited for him in the hidden alcove. Its scales shone in the morning light, and its wings flexed gently as if ready to stretch and soar. The boy smiled quietly, feeling a mix of excitement and pride. He knelt beside the dragon, offering a few pieces of food. The dragon ate slowly, savoring each bite, then lifted its massive head and nudged the boy gently with its snout. The boy understood the gesture instantly. The creature was ready for something new, ready to explore its freedom while staying connected to him. It had grown beyond weakness and fear, and now they would take the next step together. The boy led the dragon toward the higher cliffs at the edge of the valley. The terrain was rugged, filled with jagged rocks, small trees, and uneven ground. The boy knew it would be a challenge, but he also knew the dragon could handle it. Every step they took together reminded him of their journey so far from the first day the dragon begged for bread, starving and fragile, to now when it was strong, alert, and intelligent. As they reached the cliff, the dragon paused, eyes scanning the vast valley below. Its muscles tensed, wings spreading slightly. The boy approached slowly, placing a hand on its snout and whispering, "You can do this. I'm here with you. Trust yourself." The dragon blinked slowly, then stretched its wings fully, testing the wind. With a powerful push, it lifted off the ground, soaring gracefully into the sky. The boy watched, amazed, as the creature he had nurtured and guided took flight for the first time in full strength. The dragon circled above the cliffs, riding the currents of air with effortless power. Its wings cut through the sky, catching the sunlight and casting a massive shadow over the valley. The boy felt a surge of joy and awe. He had not only helped the dragon survive, he had helped it rediscover its true power. Yet despite the freedom it now possessed, the dragon returned to the boy, swooping close and landing gently beside him. The bond between them was undeniable, forged through trust, patience, and care. As the days passed, the boy and the dragon explored the valley together. They moved quietly through forests, crossed streams, and climbed hills. The dragon had regained confidence, not only in its strength, but also in its judgment. It followed the boy when he led the way, but it also explored independently, testing its limits and reacting intelligently to the environment. The boy watched with fascination as the dragon's movements became precise and controlled. Each flap of its wings, each careful step, was a sign of the progress they had made together. The villagers, who had once feared and avoided the valley, began to notice changes as well. They saw the dragon flying high above, but it never attacked or threatened anyone. Slowly, curiosity replaced fear. Some villagers tried to follow its tracks, hoping to catch a glimpse of the mysterious creature. The boy watched cautiously, guiding the dragon through hidden paths when necessary to avoid danger. He realized that trust and understanding were still fragile, both with the villagers and the dragon. Patience would be required to maintain harmony. One afternoon, the boy decided to test the dragon's strength further. He led it to a wide clearing where the wind blew steadily, ideal for gliding. The dragon lifted its wings and stepped forward, then ran lightly before taking off into the sky. It circled higher and higher, performing powerful, controlled flaps. The boy ran beneath, calling softly, guiding it with hand gestures. The dragon responded, diving and rising with agility that surprised even the boy. This was no longer a creature weakened by hunger and fear. It was magnificent, alive, and free. As they rested together in the clearing later, the boy reflected on their journey. He remembered the dragon's first desperate begging for bread, its weak, trembling body, and the fear he had felt approaching such a legendary creature. Now, the dragon lay beside him, calm and content, a powerful being that had learned trust and companionship. The boy realized that their bond had transformed them both. He had grown braver, more patient, and more compassionate, while the dragon had learned the strength that comes from guidance, understanding, and care. But their journey was not just about growth. It was also about protection and responsibility. The boy knew that the dragon's power could attract danger if revealed to the wrong people. He began teaching it to respond wisely, to control its instincts, and to move stealthily when needed. The dragon learned quickly, using its senses and intelligence to navigate quietly and observe without causing alarm. This was a new stage in their relationship, one of mutual learning, where the boy guided, and the dragon applied knowledge and strength independently. One day, a strong wind swept through the valley, making the cliffs dangerous and unstable. The boy and the dragon needed to cross to a higher ridge for better shelter. The dragon hesitated at the edge, wings folding tightly. The boy placed a hand on its snout and whispered, "We can do this, together." The dragon stretched its wings, lifted slightly, and then, with careful coordination, glided safely across the gap. The boy followed, awed by the precision and trust they shared. This moment symbolized everything they had achieved together: patience, training, courage, and above all, trust. As night fell, they returned to their favorite alcove. The dragon lay down, breathing deeply, while the boy prepared a small meal. He reflected on the lessons they had learned together, the importance of patience, the power of kindness, and the courage required to face both fear and responsibility. He realized that their story was more than just survival. It was about growth, understanding, and the creation of a bond that could withstand any challenge. In the quiet of the night, the dragon shifted closer to the boy, resting its massive head on his lap. The boy stroked its scales gently, feeling the warmth and strength beneath his hand. He whispered softly, "We've come so far, and we're ready for whatever comes next." The dragon blinked slowly, a deep rumble echoing from its chest as if agreeing. This moment of silent understanding marked the culmination of their journey together, an unspoken promise that they would always protect and care for each other. Boy also realized the impact their bond could have on the world. If the villagers could understand the dragon's nature, they might learn that fear and misunderstanding could be replaced by trust and compassion. He thought about the stories that had once painted dragons as dangerous monsters, and he knew that their friendship could rewrite those tales. The dragon, once starving and feared, was now a symbol of resilience, intelligence, and trust. Over the following weeks, the boy and the dragon continued to explore, grow stronger, and strengthen their bond. They practiced flying, running, and navigating the valley together. The dragon's intelligence became increasingly apparent. It observed carefully, responded to subtle signals, and even seemed to anticipate the boy's intentions. Their connection was no longer one-sided, it was a partnership. The boy guided, the dragon learned and applied, and together they became an unstoppable team of trust and understanding. One morning, as the boy and dragon rested atop the highest cliff in the valley, they saw the sun rise in brilliant colors. The dragon spread its wings, soaring higher than ever before. The boy ran along the edge, arms outstretched, feeling the wind rush past him. He watched the dragon dive and glide, powerful and free. It was a breathtaking sight, a creature once weak and starving, now magnificent, soaring through the sky with strength and grace. The boy realized that this moment represented everything they had worked for. The dragon's journey from desperation to power, from fear to trust, was complete. Their bond had not only saved a life, but transformed it. And in doing so, they had both grown in ways that would last a lifetime. The boy knew that challenges would still come, but he also knew that together they could face anything. Trust, patience, care, and courage had carried them this far, and they would carry them further. As night fell over the valley, the boy and the dragon returned to their alcove. The stars twinkled above, and the quiet of the valley wrapped around them like a blanket. The dragon rested its head beside the boy, and he placed a hand gently on its snout. "We've done it," he whispered. "We've come so far, and we'll go even further." The dragon let out a soft rumble, a sound that spoke of trust, gratitude, and connection. In that moment, the boy understood that their story was no longer just about survival. It was about friendship, loyalty, and the extraordinary power of trust. The dragon had found strength, freedom, and companionship. The boy had found courage, patience, and purpose. Together, they had turned fear into understanding, weakness into power, and hunger into hope. The boy closed his eyes, listening to the dragon's steady breathing. Tomorrow would bring new adventures, challenges, and discoveries. But tonight they rested together, a human and a dragon, bound by trust and friendship, ready to face the world as partners. The valley, once quiet and lonely, now held a story of hope and courage, one that would echo through the hills, rivers, and trees for years to come. And in the quiet of the night, under the blanket of stars, the boy and the dragon dreamed together of soaring higher, exploring farther, and sharing a bond that nothing could break.